Hi, welcome to a new episode in the Internet Surfer, hosting the most horror and creepiest stories from Reddit. Please don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy.
Reddit, what is the worst heartbreak you've ever had? Episode 1. Well, my heart is broken now. I find it really hard to react properly to positive contact. People take initiative to talk to me and I keep my distance. I want to talk to someone and it just doesn't work because I'm looking at them to see if it went okay. How did this happen? Got dumped, strung along and just plain treated like shit by someone who I thought I could trust the most out of anyone to be honest with me. Then in my search for personal growth I got rejected by at least 3 girls on a daily basis. Finally get some girl in my bed that I really like and have an accident that makes her report me to the cops. 6 months of sitting in fear if I'm going to be branded a molester and lose any chance in the field I'm studying in as well as years of prison time. Got lucky and there is no trial. Go to school again and get treated like dirt for 2.5 years by a class of 20 girls, who would ignore me or use condescending tones at me while talking, always reject my ideas in group projects and never once keeping their focus on me when another person was near. 1 year of being a social recluse because I was too scared to do anything outside without getting mentally unstable for the rest of the day. Have some friends now, but mostly I just react very unenthusiastic when they speak because there is always something I can find that is wrong about them. The way they talk or the subject. I know I do this because I'm afraid to get close to them and it hurts me to know that I reject people who try their best to make contact with me. I want to let them know I care about them and that their small gesture of having me taste their food or playing piano for me is really the most precious thing I have. But I'm so scared.
He stopped emailing me. We were internet friends 3 months ago without much of an explanation, and it's hurting as bad now as it ever was. Only last night I lied awake for hours hurting thinking about him. Mostly about why he did this to me and what I did to make it happen. This happens a lot to me now, but usually I can still sleep. I've never had anything hurt this much for so long. I thought really highly of him, and that he like me meant so much to me. Now I don't feel like I can live with myself, because of how much I failed him as a friend. Sad face. I want him to talk to me so badly, but all he will do is read my emails to him. I send him lots of emails. I even sent him one today, all very whiny and miserable, but occasionally a little funny, and occasionally after he reads them. Usually when I'm sounding more desperate, he will forward me an email he sent to me many times before. It's the same stupid email for the 7th or 8th time, which is the one that tells me to watch a list of shows he likes. So maybe he's not entirely cut me out, but I haven't received an emotional word from him in these long 3 months. And that's what I've really wanted the most all, for him to speak to me like he used to. I really loved all the things he used to say to me. But now I get nothing but coldness and the same repeated instruction to do something impossible. Since I'm not in any state to watch the shows he wants me to, it's hopeless. All I can do for him when I feel so sad about this is try to write emails to him explaining my feelings. That's the one thing that consistently helps me move past the sadness. Not talking to anyone or listening to nice music or distracting myself, but sending him emails. The other things just put it in the background for a bit, but when I stop what I'm doing there is no longer lasting relief. It comes right back. The good thing is, he's reading my emails for now. I'm kind of scared what will happen when he stops reading them. I did get him to play online chess with me through email recently, which is probably the closest I've come to getting him to talk to me again. But then on the 6th move I made a comment along with the move which I instantly regretted. Now he hasn't responded with a move of his own for 3 days. And I know it's because of the idiotic thing I said when I moved my knight. This is a good reason to hate myself with renewed vigor. If I was forgetting the reasons I have to want to die for all the other things I have done, now I have this fresh one. This most recent stupid thing I did is what began another period of heightened distress for me. I got kind of used to these by now, and I know what to expect. I'm at like half a dozen and counting. I still fear them and don't want another one to begin again, but I know they will let up in like a few days. That's what's always happened. But when I do feel the heightened distress, sometimes it feels like it will never end. That was true last night. In the end, I was finally delivered from the awful insomnia I was experiencing when I prayed to God as best I could for help. I've not really done this before, so I don't think I'm so good at it, but I gave it a shot. A bit to my disbelief, a nice feeling of peacefulness washed over me following my prayers. Then that was followed by delirious and happy relief. I had been fighting my sadness for all those hours under my blankets, but it hadn't stopped hurting until then. And how had I stopped it? By praying to God. I guess they do say He works in mysterious ways. It was only then that I finally drifted to sleep. This exhaustion from battling these feelings, this sadness, the pain, is somewhat typical to me now. The consequence is seen in my schoolwork, in how the way I talk to my family, in my overall energy. It's draining. It's dragging me down really far, and of course I'm scared of where it could lead. Why am I so distraught from my friend leaving me like this? It's because this friend is real special and funny. I met him on a forum almost a year ago, and one of the first things I noticed on the forum was this one kid who shined really brightly. I'm not exaggerating about the bright part. You didn't really have a choice but to notice him since it was so blinding. Either way, you were going to have to adjust your mirrors and reveal the source of the glare. Him. Also, it didn't make him any less conspicuous that the reflective properties of his mohawk scattered lots of extra light everywhere, including more light in my direction. Once his image resolved and I saw him standing there with his mohawk, it was pretty much love at first sight. I knew I must befriend him. That wasn't really a conscious thought, and it probably wasn't out of any noble instincts that I wanted to do that. Not because he didn't have any friends and might want one, and not because I have much to offer him in the way of friendship. I'm pretty boring, but simply because I was drawn to his aura and wanted a way to be around it more. Is it selfish that I wanted that? It's important to understand that few people have the qualities he does in the amounts he has them in. Diamonds are kind of the same way. Few things have the qualities of diamonds either. But do we blame people for wanting diamonds? No, we don't. Few things are as dazzling as they are, and we accept that this is a sufficient quality to engender desire in people. We don't judge you too much if you want the most sparkly thing there is. So, what if it's a person that is the most sparkly thing you know of? I know personality isn't really a science like the properties of diamonds are, and you can't measure how much someone glows. Not scientifically, but if it was and you could measure it, I'm pretty sure you would find that this kid would be like what a diamond is compared to all the other stones. Which is to say, he'd be much more sparkly. One thing that contributes to this, and is probably no small part of it, is how he's a natural storyteller. It makes you feel really happy inside how he describes things. In reading, a lot of the time we're all really looking for that great feeling reading can give. Some of us are probably actively chasing it since it feels so good, and we have an idea of how to find it. It's the magic of writers, how they can create these feelings in us, and he has some of that magic. He talks in a really sensible way too. So if he's not telling you a good story, he could be putting something in a clarifying way for you. This is also super admirable to me, since that's another thing that's always made feel really good, when someone can take a situation and put it in terms that ease your uncertainty. For someone like me who gets ungrounded easily, I could use that a lot. If I could regrind myself, I would, but sometimes the confusion is too much to make sense of. So it's really a wonderful talent when you can soothe someone by what you say, when they can't soothe themselves. And that's something he's good at as well. At first, though, I wasn't really so aware of how he could do all these things. Probably it's like obvious that he could to anyone. People don't just have auras like that without magical abilities to back them up. But I just knew I wanted to be near him. I didn't really think he was so much shinier than anyone else in a comparative sense, but I knew he was very shiny to me. I know it's kind of a stupid thing to say he's a shiny diamond and not a dull stone, implying he's better, which he is, but I only say that so someone can understand why he means a lot to me. Because people will doubt you sometimes when you go on about how special someone is. Think you just got attachment issues or an obsession that went too far. Like how some kids think planes are the best thing in the world when they're really not. You just think there's a light to this kid that is absolutely golden, but really it doesn't come from him. You just attributed it to him because you're infatuated beyond the point of reason. But to that I have to say no, it does come from him. One of the first things I did, after trying to interact with him a bit and make it obvious I liked him, is to declare to the forum that I had a crush on him. I made it public like that so he would be less likely to reject me. Also, I liked that if he said yes, then there would be a public record of it. By some miracle it worked. Soon I got him to say he had a crush on me back. One of the most ecstatic moments of my life, without question. And of course I had to follow up his admission with asking him if he really meant it or if he just said it not hurt my feelings. I wanted to know that he didn't just say it because he was afraid to publicly reject me. But he said that wasn't it. He actually really liked me. At that point, I was the better part of convinced. But me being always insecure and prizing him so much and not thinking it possible he could like me back even half of how much I liked him, I remained uncertain about how he felt about me. In the months that would follow, I would do many stupid things to test where I stood with him. I would also guard his perception of me way too defensively, not wanting to be seen in a bad light by him since I already felt way fainter than he was. Still, our friendship got to a pretty nice place. We started to email each other lots and talk about almost anything. He confided in me his problems and I ineffectively responded to them. What I said may not have been any bit of help, but it was clear I cared even if I didn't have the words to show it very well. It's too sad for me to talk about how things fell apart and how I ruined everything, but it was entirely my fault, and maybe the worst part is there was nothing I could do to help it, and I will always be defective in the ways that I am. I was just never capable of being friends with the person who I wanted to be close to more than anything might be the sad truth of it. So if it said we were incompatible, then it has to be mentioned that the reason for that was that I was inadequate for him.
I was 21 years old. I had no responsibilities, no concerns. I was going where I wanted, when I wanted, doing what I wanted. I spent a year in California selling magazines door to door. A couple summers in Idaho working at a summer camp. Spent time in Minnesota working for a radio station. Drove down to Texas for a couple months just to be in Texas. I was just having fun. My dad had relocated to Maryland for work, so I decided to visit him. The East Coast was still new to me, and there was so much to see and do over there. I packed up a suitcase with a couple outfits, hopped on a plane, and flew to Baltimore. Crashed in his spare room for a couple of weeks before finding a job. I'd always wanted to live in Belize. A buddy's parents owned a hotel down there and he was always visiting. Showed me pictures, brought back rum. It looked ideal. Heavenly. Low cost of living, high demand for English-speaking people, and the US dollar was worth twice as much. Land was cheap, and property value was projected to explode within 10, 15 years. It'd be a great way to settle down. So I got a job, started saving money. And then I met a girl. Red hair. 5 feet 6 inches, 105 pounds. She was sweet. At first. They all are, aren't they? Turns out that red hair was a fuse. It sparked a passion between us. It got hot fast. We clicked with each other. We were compatible. Things just worked. We enjoyed each other. Mentally, physically. We were both young and coming into our real adult roles in life. It took 1 year to change my life completely. I saved up the money for my move to Belize. $5,000, plenty to get down there, pay for a hotel room for a couple months, get myself situated. She'd known about my dream, but didn't expect it to turn into a reality. Turns out she'd had a lot of dreams, too, but they kept getting destroyed. Maybe that was why she felt the need to destroy mine. We had a talk. A what are we doing, where are we going talk. She begged me to stay. She'd never wanted kids, or marriage, or a white picket fence before. She didn't want it then either, but since meeting me she'd realized she did want it, eventually. I told her that it wasn't just my dreams of Belize that were taking me away from her. I hated the East Coast. It was always just a trip. A stop along the way. People there are rude, in a hurry, self-centered. Not a place I liked spending time. It was actually her idea. If you ask her about it now, she'll deny it all day. But she brought up moving to Washington, instead. It's where I'm from, and where I always wind up eventually. She said she'd come with me. She wanted to be with me, and would go anywhere. Not Belize, apparently. So we did it. Packed everything we owned in a 1983 Mustang and drove across the country to start a new life. It was good for a couple years. We got great jobs, a nice house. Dogs, cars, furniture. We made friends and had dinner dates. One day I decided I could live with her. Really, forever. I made the plans 5 months in advance. On her birthday I took her to her favorite restaurant. It's nothing as special as you'd think, Hohot Mongolian Grill. Yeah. See, for the first 22 years of her life you could have asked her, what's your favorite food, and your answer would be Taco Bell. It's not even a food. It's a restaurant. She didn't care. Taco Bell was her favorite. A number 6, chicken, nacho cheese, soft taco, cherry Pepsi, and a steak quesadilla. I don't know how she ate like that and maintained the stick figure she had. But that was her absolute favorite. If we got in a fight I just had to bring that home and everything was okay. Then, one day, I took her to Hohot. And for the first time, in our 2 or so years of dating, she said to me, this is better than Taco Bell, and I was flabbergasted. So I called them up and made the preparations for her birthday. We showed up for her birthday dinner, grabbed our bowls, and filled them with our assorted noodles, meats, veggies, sauces. We got up to the cooks, gave them our food. Then my phone rang. It was her friend from back home. He'd been trying to call her, no success. I gave her the phone. She turned her back to me, something she always did on the phone, just like I knew she would. That's when I kneeled down behind her. The cooks poured their oil or whatever on the big cooking stone and a huge blast of flame shot up, catching everyone's attention. The server handed my redhead her plate. But, there was no food on it. She looked for a second before realizing there was just a ring in the middle of it. She turned to look at me, confused, and saw me looking up at her. All of our friends and family jumped up from behind the room divider and started clapping. The entire restaurant joined in. We made our plans. It was going to be a Hawaii beach wedding. Just the 2 of us. No friends, no family. With our friends and family spread all over the country, there was no cheap and practical way to get them all in one place, so we decided it was just us, and then we'd bring the reception to them. But we took our time. We were just living. It was nice. One day she said we should throw out the condoms. Our daughter was born 10 months later. The fighting started 2 months before that. Her doctor said it was hormones during the pregnancy, and postpartum depression. She refused to do anything about it. Everything became a fight. Thank God we had an expensive, comfortable couch. Taco Bell didn't even fix things anymore. Eventually she suggested that it was the stress of not having her family and friends around. She wanted to move back home. I was in love, and desperate to make things work. I agreed. 6 months after the birth of our daughter we were back on the East Coast. A week later she broke up with me. I fought it. I fought hard. And I succeeded, then. We kept working on our relationship. She had literally thrown her engagement ring in my face, but I picked it up, put it on a necklace, and put it around her neck. And for a year things were tense, but at least we were trying. I thought. One of her old friends, a gay guy, started spending a lot of time at the house. I'm not one to judge, and I certainly didn't feel threatened. I took him in like he was one of my friends. Invited him over for beer and football, told him to stay while I was making her dinner, helped fix his car. Several months passed, and I thought I was being supportive of her and her friends. Instead, I was popping grapes into the mouth of her new boyfriend. They've been dating for 15 months now. We broke up 12 months ago. Worst was my engagement. Met this woman at work, I know, but I didn't work directly with her. Almost right away I knew there was something special about her. We spent the next couple of years developing a friendship, and the more I learned about her the more attractive she seemed. Single mother of 2 kids, 9 and 12. Eventually I talked to her about the feelings and she was highly flattered and at the same time a bit worried due to the fact she had kids. I was adamant I could handle it. So slowly she started including me in more and more activities and things were going great. After about a year I proposed and she accepted. Life seemed great. Beautiful fiancé, 2 great kids. We even moved in together shortly thereafter and started to plan a wedding. Then things started to go downhill. She was big on waiting to actually have fun until after marriage, and insisted we sleep in separate beds, but I figured that's fine, I can certainly wait, and there's lots of stuff to do otherwise. But she started to become a bit more withdrawn. Still nothing huge. Turns out she was still technically married to her ex-husband because he was holding up divorce proceedings. Would have been nice to know that going in, but fine, you love someone, you can't fault them for a problem they have little control over. We eventually bought a car together and continued progressing forward. Then she starts accusing me of conspiring against her. Confused as hell I am like, what? And she points to evidence of me returning shoes for the son to a store that weren't the right size. How dare I do that without telling her? Eventually it gets to the point she is going batshit insane over every tiny thing I do. At this point, it is December 28th and I have to break it off with her because neither of us is happy. Kids naturally assume I am the problem as mother can do no wrong and I really don't want to disrupt that. Moving out was hard. What followed was worse. She went and found some guy in a nearby city to start ducking and was absolutely sure I found out about it, an accidental phone call, just to make me more miserable. I went from thinking I found the woman of my dreams, she is incredibly intelligent, funny, can be very warm and beautiful, with 2 great kids, to a controlling, money-obsessed, vindictive woman that I still have not gotten over nearly 3 years later. I'm not saint in this, as when arguments happen of course there is yelling, but I always tried to be supportive and kind to her and was met with an increasingly frigid situation. It sucks because I'm stupid and can't get over them, and because of what happened. I wasn't by any means madly in love with this girl, but it still hurt. I and she were part of a group of 4, with her always dating the other guy in the group. I didn't mind, in fact I wanted to see it work with them, but he has a lone wolf personality and there's some things about her that she can't change that he doesn't like. So they've been going on and off for years. Fast forward to 7 months ago, and they break up again. A couple of our friends suggest that we date, which never crossed my mind. I mean, we had all been friends since high school, but I never wanted to rock the boat. I talked to the other guy about it and he said he didn't mind, and just wanted her to do what made her happy. He's the kind of guy that wants everyone to get along, and never burns bridges. But he's also not very emotional, doesn't communicate well, and isn't much for hugs and going out on dates. Also never says I love you. So I and she started dating. My friends tell me that I'm doing everything right, taking her on dates, giving her back massages, doing what I can to make her feel wanted and comfortable. Then she starts to say some things, that at the time I didn't think much of it, but were huge red flags. Now she keeps talking bad about herself, saying if she was better the other guy would like her. That his new long-distance girlfriend doesn't have what she has and that he should like her instead. I do what I can to console her. On a side note, she's very much a daddy's girl, the girl who you think is very innocent, with a cute face. Eventually she drops the bomb. She says that after the other guy, she feels like she might be rebounding and want some time alone. I took it hard, but it made sense, so no hard feelings. Kind of. The night she told me, she was ignoring me and hanging around him the entire night. We were at a sleepover, but I was distraught so I left. She was confused why I wasn't there in the morning, then when she starts talking to me again, she dropped another bomb. She thinks it's too hard to get over him. So instead of trying, she wants him to at least pretend he likes her for the attention. And that's, and his girlfriend is far away. If he offered fun, it's not like he could refuse. Yes, she actually said that to me. I forgive her several times and each time it comes back to this. One day she comes over and tells me that since we started dating, she has been trying to cheat on me with the other guy. The other guy didn't know we were dating. I thought we just weren't showing affection around him because we didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable, and that she would continue to actively try and sleep with him while we were dating, and that after we were done talking she was going to go over there and do that. Basically every waking moment we weren't together, she was with him texting me about all the fun they were having. Not fun, but it was certainly salt in the wound. She also drops this on me on my first day at my job. The first job I've ever had. I beg her to talk to me about it, but she ignores me, while we're all hanging out. Then when we're all together and just hanging around, she points out that I look upset and that I should talk about it, and then it's not healthy to hide it. She said this in front of everyone. The others along with her all go to a convention a few days later and she tells me not to talk to anyone about it. I tell them anyway. She says she doesn't want me ruining the convention for them. At the time I agree because I'm feeling low. But thinking about it, I didn't know her anything. When she gets back she asks if I'm still mad. What a thing to say. It's sad because every time she admitted she was trying to sleep with the other guy, it wasn't a tearful confession or anything. It was an apology like she stepped on my shoe, followed by shrug. She also poked fun at personal things like my fetish and other things that you really shouldn't touch on, but I kept my mouth shut because I was trying to be respectful. Every month after that, she usually texts or bugs me and tries to talk to me or hang out. I avoid her at all costs, and she thinks it's my fault for putting up a wall and making it so hard for us to be friends. She also thinks this is why people in a friend group should date. Dating a friend group didn't make you a cheating slut. She admitted to using me because she never got cuddles or hugs or dates from the other guy, so she'd get them from me. She even told me to stop thinking so highly of myself when I told her that I was a damn good boyfriend and didn't deserve what she did. Even stopping at me when I told her that I wanted her to treat me better. In person she laughs nervously when people get mad at her, and is afraid to speak, but behind a screen or over the phone, she would hurl insults and say extremely hurtful things. And oh, did her ever. I'm extremely bitter after that. I can't comprehend how someone who is a good friend would do this to another. And at this point the other friends in the group think I should just get over it. But they don't understand that I and she didn't take it the same. I was destroyed, but she spends every day at that guy's house. She had nothing to get over. Especially when she told me and the others many times that we didn't know we were talking about and that if we didn't think she could get over him. She proceeded to prove us right by trying to go for him again. We only dated a few months, but that kind of betrayal sticks. Especially when the other guy's dad is best friends with her practically, and always defends her, thinking she's a sweet little girl. She isn't. Before I ever had a job I only had $100 to my name, and I spent every penny trying to make her happy. Megan. I didn't deserve it.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.